It is absolutely a huge honor today that Sandra Calleros, and how do you say it in Spanish? Calleros came by my house today to film a podcast, and I'm so excited because the number one complaint I get with the podcast is that Howard, every time you podcast interview a dentist, it's a man, and every time you podcast interview a woman, it's a consultant, and so. I try so hard. I call you guys unicorns because you're so rare. Because half the class now is women, but when you were in school, how many were in the class, and how many were women?
I think it might have been like 20 to 30 max, 30% max.
It was 30%.
Maybe 25.
Well, that's actually a lot.
It was a long time ago,
that's a long time ago.
But I think it was about 25% maybe.
And I go to the women that I went to dental school with, and I begged them to be on the show. I've got one on the show, and the other ones they're all scared. They're all like, they're just nervous. And so you're a little nervous.
But you told me the reason you wanted me to do it is it would help younger women dentists, or maybe young dentists in general. So I like helping people, even if I'm not that comfortable.
Well, everybody should be out of their comfort zone every once in a while.
Yeah, I agree.
And but also you're a hell of a role model for a young woman dentist. I mean, you we're in Phoenix, and you fell in love with Phoenix because you fell in love with Scottsdale because you and your boyfriend bike, motorcycles, all that stuff,
Yes.
and you are a big fan of MT Manji at the Scottsdale Center.
Yes, I
So-
love the Scottsdale Center.
And why do you love the Scott? Would you have loved it if it had been the Phoenix Center? See, I always tease MTS because I live in Phoenix. This is where all the poor people live, and all the rich people live in Scottsdale.
Well, it is in Scottsdale, and that's just how I happened upon it.
If the difference between Phoenix and Scottsdale is if you live in Phoenix and own have a Lexus or Mercedes, it's paid for in cash. If you go to Scottsdale, it's on a lease.
I lease my car too.
Scottsdale's motto is "Fake it till you make it." But anyway, so tell me why you love the Scottsdale Center. Is it just because MTS Manji is so charismatic?
Yeah, I mean, when you walk in, it's just like all of a sudden, wow. And, I think that's how you want your dental practice to be, too. And so, great first impression. I think the people they hire there are, top-notch people. They really seem to have a passion for dentistry, and they're really good with people. And the best people teach there. Frank Spear, I was looking for an occlusion course, and it just... coincidentally, it was Frank Spear who was teaching there, so signed up for one course, and it just blew me away, and I just kept taking course after course after course over the years. And the reason, my office practice was slow at the time. It was like 2009, I think, when the economy was...
Rock bottom.
It was horrible.
It crashed 2008, and 2009 was rock bottom.
Yeah, so things were kind of slow, so I just took the opportunity to spend extra time taking great continuing education. So I was just lucky that I stumbled upon the Scottsdale Center, because it led to one thing and then to another thing, and to where I am now.
So talk about the things, the one thing, the second thing, the third thing.
Okay.
You started off with Frank Spear, I assume, treating the worn dentition. Was that your first class?
Yeah, it was like one of those. Maybe it was facially generated treatment planning, which I think everybody should take. It's just the basic, I think, intro course, I think, at the Scottsdale Center. And so that led to another seminar, which led to the workshops, and I think I did every single class, and I got into the Spear Faculty Club, and at that time I was renting space, and I didn't have my own office, but that was my plan.
So you
build
were
my own office.
you're in Manhattan Beach, California?
Yeah, I live in Manhattan Beach, and I work in...
See, I thought you lived in San Bernardino because this was the Mexican-American princess during the Rose Bowl parade. I kid you, you were, weren't you?
I was.
You were the
One
Mexican-American princess. So are you still a princess?
No, now I'm a queen.
Now you're a queen? When you go to the Scottsdale Center, do you stay in the princess?
We did have like a little condo we were renting for a while, but now I do stay at the princess.
Yeah.
Or I can stay at my son's.
So you've graduated from a princess in San Bernardino to now you're a queen in Manhattan Beach?
Yeah, I live in Manhattan Beach, and my practice is in El Segundo, which is right next door to Manhattan Beach.
Which is, I assume, near L.A.?
Yeah, so the LAX International Airport is in El Segundo.
Okay.
Right? Yeah.
Right on.
And one of the Patterson branches is in El Segundo, one of their main branches. So I'm a big Patterson supporter, and they, I feel like they did help me build my practice. And
so you went from renting to building your own?
yes.
So you own the land and building?
Well, I wish I did, no. But I just own the practice.
Oh.
I don't own the building.
Okay, so you're renting a practice, and now you own it.
I was renting space from other dentists for a long time.
Yeah.
I had my two kids, and I kind of wanted to wait until my kids were at least done with high school. So I was working, it's just less responsibility if you can rent space. When you have your own practice, it's a lot more responsibility.
So, well, let's talk about that. True or false? Because we're about the same age. Even though you look 10 years younger than me, we're about the same age. I was not the Irish American king in the San Bernardino Rose Bowl for but no, they told us when I got out of school in '87. What year did you get out of school?
Same year.
'87, same year.
'87.
They told all those girls in the class that their total lifelong productivity of how many years and hours they drilled, filled, and build would be probably only half of what the men would do, because they were going to all get pregnant, have children, and not return to the workforce, blah, blah. And every one of those women in my class is still cranking out today. And I would say the average woman in my dental school class is actually more successful in cranking out more hours and everything than their male counterparts. But like, say, the Colorado Dental School, the last graduating class, every single one of them got a job at corporate. The studies I'm seeing nationally for the 56 dental schools is over 60% will go get a job in corporate. Do you think that these people who want to have children, have a family, that's kind of a good idea, because to be Mr. Dad or Mr. Mom and own your own business, that's just pretty overwhelming?
I think it's a big responsibility, like I said. So I just had an associate that moved to Austin, Texas, and she's working for corporate now. She just started, and I think for her,
which corporate did she go to?
Pacific Dental,
which is Steve Thorne.
I don't know, but so it seems like it might work out for her, because I think with her loans from school and then how much she would have to come up with to start her own practice, it seems like it's just a lot these days. But I did hire a new associate. She's 27. She's been out of school for a couple years. She doesn't have any kids yet. So I think either being an associate or maybe working for corporate isn't a bad idea when you're first starting out and you want to have kids. I mean, I think if you have kids, your focus should be on your kids. And so maybe you can't focus on dentistry as much as you would like to if you have children. But I think it's individual. I think, if you have a stay-at-home husband, maybe he can take care of your kids. And I think that exists too. I don't know anybody who's doing that, but I don't see why that can't be something.
So you're out there in California. There's 5 dental schools in California. 10% of all the dentists in the United States are in California. The saturation of dentists in California makes places like Idaho and Montana and Kansas just look like, they need to build 100 dental schools. What would you say to a young kid in one of those 5 dental schools? Say, I'd like to practice in Manhattan Beach or any of those nice areas, all that. Do you think that is just completely insane and that you just have to go far inland or far away, or would you say, what, if your passion is you want to practice in Manhattan Beach and live by the ocean, just do it? What would you say?
I think if you really wanted to do it, I think you could do it. Like they say, the cream always rises to the top. I think if you're passionate and you are really focused on it, and that's your dream, and you're willing to put in the effort, then I think you can do it. There's a lot of doctors that are, they've been practicing a long time, and I know they're not putting out a lot of effort, and, I think, some of those people are your competition. I think you could easily do it.
That's great advice, because, my 4 boys, whenever we're going to dinner or out when they're bringing their friends with them, they're saying, what do you think about going in this business or that business? I always tell them about their two uncles that went into construction in Kansas, and there's nothing new in construction, really. I mean, it's the same old deal. And they built the largest construction company in Kansas, and they said, they said from the beginning, the thing they noticed is that nobody talked good about the construction people. They didn't show up on time. They didn't do their job. If it failed and you called them back, they couldn't come back. They just said everybody was so crappy that if they were just going to go in there and do good work and warranty everything and be a man of their word and be on time and show up with a white shirt and a tie when all their competitors have 3 inches of their butt crack hanging out. And they built Key Construction. It's one of the biggest companies. And when I go around, it's just like almost every business you go into in America is lame. And I tell everybody to open up their own business, because I believe 90% of your customers are going to be lame. So you're right. If you go in there, and it doesn't matter if you go into the UFC or you want to be a prize fighter or whatever. The best will always rise to the top.
Yeah, I agree with that. Totally.
So Scottsdale Center, I always associate with Patterson. It seems to be a Patterson. I don't know the logistics of it, but it's very Patterson dominated. So, but you say Patterson really helped you go from space sharing to having your own office?
Yeah, and it wasn't like I sought out Patterson. One of the reps happened to walk into my office one day. When I was renting from someone else, and so I developed a relationship with him, and then I developed a relationship with their equipment specialist, and who is now the manager of the branch in El Segundo. And his name is Jason Owens. And Jason Owens in El Segundo.
And where?
El Segundo.
El Segundo, just like E-L?
2 words. El Segundo.
El Segundo. Now, my Hispanic patients call me El Gordo Gringo. Is that good? Does that mean handsome? I assume that means handsome in Spanish. They say El Gordo Gringo. So Jason Olsen, he was an equipment specialist. Now he's the branch.
Yeah, so he would go, I'd find a space for, that was for rent, and I'd say, Jason, can you come out and check out this space for me? And he'd sit down on the ground with his laptop, and he'd map it out and say, you could put your front office here, and so he just looked and looked. We looked and looked and looked until I finally found the right space. But by then he was already the manager, and then there was another equipment specialist.
So how many places did he go?
I looked at a lot.
But how many did you take Jason to?
Probably 5, 6, or 7.
Now, they only do that with hot dentists. They would never do that. They would never do that for a bald dentist. They're just like, get the blueprints and drive them by my office. But you got Jason to go with you. And you also, seems like looking at your website and talking to you, you kind of fell in love with CEREC.
I love CEREC. At the Patterson branch, they invited us to come over and take a look at this machine. And the first time I saw a crown being milled, I was like, oh my God, I love this machine. I'm going to marry this machine. I just fell in love with it. I was so fascinated by it. And at that time, I was still renting space. So as soon as I built my office, I thought, okay, in about a year, then I'll be able to afford it. But it was less than a year, maybe 6 months later. I said, I want the CEREC machine.
But the reality is in everything is the devil's in the details. And so, when I see a CEREC machine, it really works in some offices, it doesn't work in other offices. So why does it work in your office?
Well, you have to know there's a high learning curve. And I remember, my first case I did, it was an onlay, and it fit great, and I thought, what are they talking about? This is easy. And then, I kept using it, and it's not easy. And I did call, the tech support every day, it seemed like. And I was calling my friend in Manhattan Beach, Steve Ozer. He's kind of like a mentor for me.
Steve Ozer?
Steve Ozer.
Is that a dentist?
Yes. He had
OSER?
OZER.
OZER?
Yes.
Wow, what kind of name is that? With a Z? It's got to be
or something.
Russian or Turkish or... Huh.
I think he has a Russian background.
And does he have a CEREC machine too?
Yeah, so he had already had his CEREC for like 8 years, and he was just starting to get into training. And he lives in Manhattan Beach, and his practice is in Manhattan Beach. So, I kind of knew him, and but not really. So now we're good friends. So he was my first trainer in the office. So I would call, Steve all the time, and, and then being a member of CERECdoctors.com, you can upload your cases. So,
and by the way, CERECdoctors.com was formed on Dental Town. That started on Dental Town by Samir Puri and I think Armin. And so I feel like I'm the proud father of CERECdoctors.com. I think every one of those, I bet the first 500 people on that were first on dentaltown.com. So,
I didn't know that.
So I'm the proud father of CERECdoctors.com.
That's amazing.
Is it CERECdoctors.com or .net?
.com.
.com, okay.
So what was I saying?
That you got that joining CEREC Doctors and having a mentor was helping you. There was a long learning curve.
Owning a CEREC, I think it takes about a year before you're finally comfortable. And now, I love social media. I love technology. I'm friends with Mike Scramstad. He's one of the faculty at Scottsdale. So now if I have a problem, I don't spend time uploading the case. I get my iPhone out, I take a screenshot and say, Mike, what's up with this? And he'll answer me like in 2 minutes.
I actually bought the CEREC 1 back in the 80s, 1980. I had CEREC 1 before any of those Scramstead and Samir Puri and those guys were even in grammar school. And then it was CEREC 2, then it was CEREC 3. When you started, what did you start with? CEREC 3?
4.
You started with CEREC 4?
I think it was 4.
Or the blue Omnicam?
Well, I have the blue cam, and I got it at the end of 2011. What
I like most about it was I think one of the fundamental basics of quality dentistry is just magnification. I think the dentists that go from the naked eye to 2x to 3x is just, that's the road up. Endodontist with a microscope.
Right.
And what I love the most about my CEREC is that you would scan that prep. And I mean, the first time you ever scan one, you look at your prep like, did Stevie Wonder prep that? I mean, was that a blind dentist or was it Ray Charles? I mean, who did that ugly prep? So talk about your prep. Do you when you scan the prep and you look at it 40 times larger, what percent of time does that make you go back and do something to your prep?
Well, I think it's made me a better dentist because I really pay more attention to my preps. I feel kind of bad for some of the lab techs, in the past before CEREC, and I would say, why can't he just make, why is he telling me to take an impression? What a, dumb lab tech, And now I feel bad because probably I did send them some bad impressions, I didn't maybe clear the margin like I should have. So I don't go back too often. Times I go back and reprep are usually because I didn't reduce enough. I don't have enough clearance.
Let me talk about some of the negatives I see on CEREC.
Okay.
If you're talking to a prosthodontist and he says most all my cases are multiple units, it's just for them it's just so much faster to do impression. Or when you do a CEREC, Mike Totola always says that for that at Glidewell, like 96 out of 100 crowns came in one at a time. Is the CEREC machine for you one tooth at a time, or are you doing multiple units? Or I mean, if you had a big case and it was a woman needing 10 veneers or 4 crowns, would you use CEREC or would you go back to traditional?
So if I had a big case, I might want to call in Eddie Corrales.
Right.
He'll come to your office and he's a wizard at. He'll bring in extra milling machines, and he knows how to scan himself. So you do a lot of the prepping, and then he'll do most of the work. I did try it.
So you bring Eddie into your office?
Well, I haven't yet.
He is an amazing man. I love Eddie. I love that guy.
Him in your office?
No, because I'm in Phoenix. I guess he does fly around.
He goes all over.
Yeah.
So
Ryan, he's a contact us to do a podcast. We need to.
You should get Eddie. That'd be a good one. He's a character.
We should release his after yours.
Yeah, have Eddie. He's funny.
Now, where's he out in California? Is he out by you,
San Bernardino? He's in San Diego.
He's in San Diego.
So one time, I brought in this other lab tech, and I did like 10 veneers. It took all day, because this tech wasn't, he didn't know CEREC. I just thought.
So on that case all day, looking back, do you wish on that case you just would have taken an impression?
Oh, I regret doing it all day. It's just too long. It's tiring for me. It's tiring for my assistant, tiring for the patient, and I wouldn't do it. So I do send out. I don't do every case on CEREC.
Right.
I don't think you should have to do every case just because you have it. You're still going to.
But that seems to be the human condition. I mean, humans are never moderate. They're always right, left, up, down, black, white, red, yellow. They're binomial. They don't. And CEREC works when you're not an extremist. When you say, "Hey, if the patient wants it today, or it's a single tooth, or the schedule fits." But it seems like a lot of people will buy a CEREC machine and tell their lab man goodbye, and just torture themselves. No,
I don't like to torture myself. I mean, even now, like with the implant crowns, I've been doing most of them myself, and I love the way they turn out. But even lately, I'm like, oh, do I really want to spend the extra time? Because I'll still, if it's like 19 and 20, I might pour it up and have my lab tech do it. Or maybe I'll just mill it and let him finish the case. So I'll start it and let him finish it, because I just don't want to spend that extra time doing the lab work.
And what about the assistants? I mean, or how much are you delegating the CEREC to them? Because I'm really bad. I mean, I love it the most when the hygienist numbs a tooth. I go there and prep. Yes. And then I'm in another room pulling wisdom teeth in a root canal, and an hour and a half later they go in there and we cement.
Yes.
And then I'll meet to a dentist and say, they'll ask me some technical question about CEREC. And here I've had one for 2 decades. I don't even know what they're talking about. I mean, Jan and Yoni, they do all that stuff.
Well, in the beginning, I wanted to do everything. I was having too much fun with it. I loved doing it. I loved designing it. I loved, and so I became pretty fast. And then I hired this consultant recently, and she said, you need to let your assistants, you need to delegate more.
So who's the consultant?
I hired Jameson Consulting.
Kathy Jameson.
Yes.
Out of Texas.
I think they're out
Oklahoma. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we started with them in November.
And how's that going?
So it's good. She helped us a lot with scheduling. So now, like with the CEREC, I'm delegating more to the assistants, and I kind of like it. I get the patient numb, I do the prep, and they can do all the scanning, and I can come back and pretty much just check the contacts. If they have a question about the margin, maybe I didn't make it really clear, then they'll say, is this where the margin is? Especially on onlays, I think.
Well, see what you do if you cement it and there's open contacts, and you just give them an ortho referral.
Or do Invisalign.
I'm just kidding. That was a joke. Well, that's it. So
that's the great thing about CEREC. You make a mistake or something doesn't turn out quite right, so what? You're not paying a lab $200 to redo your crown. You're going to change it or yourself. Just replace it in one visit.
Yeah. So I want to talk about why is it that okay, you graduated in '87. We've been doing this for coming up on 30 years, and here you are. The phenomenon I always see is that the smart, successful people gone through Scottsdale Center, blah blah, are hiring consultants. And then every time I meet some poor, nearly bankrupt, unhappy, miserable, whatever, and I say, well, dude, you've been out of school 5 years, get a consultant. And they won't do it. But then the next time you see them, they bought a $25,000 tech scan occlusal adjuster. Or they bought a $75,000 laser. They'll buy a shiny object, but they won't buy a consultant. Why is it that the successful people are hiring Jameson Consulting to go in the Scottsdale Center, and the unhappy people think that's a waste of money?
Well, I love your podcast, and I think, it's just a great way to become exposed to so many awesome people in the industry is by listening to your podcast, Gary Takas. So one of your podcasts, you were talking about using consultants, and I've used them in the past, and I was having some issues in the office, and I just decided I need to work on my leadership skills. I've learned CEREC. I'm placing implants now. I just started a couple years ago. I have my XG 3D X-ray machine in the office. So I'm doing all this high-tech stuff, but bringing in new things to the office, it does create some stress. How do we bill it? How do we do it? How do we appoint? And so I just thought, I need to work on my leadership skills. And I got the idea from listening to your podcast. I get a lot of great ideas, by the way, from your podcasts,
And you mentioned Gary Tackett's podcast, and he's actually lives right over by Scottsdale Center.
Yeah, so.
Did you know that?
A lot of good stuff in Scottsdale.
Yeah.
And Phoenix.
Yeah.
So I asked one of my CEREC doctor's friends, Lindell Kemet, I said, we were at a BICON seminar in Boston. And I said, do you have a consultant? And he told me about Jameson. So I called them, and that's how I found out about Jameson.
So BICON's out of Boston. Easy to remember. They both start with B. Now, is that mostly the Morris taper implant? Or are you surgically placing the implants or restoring them?
I'm not doing Boston. It was more of like an introductory seminar. I feel like, since I just started, I just wanted to stick with one line. And I picked Straumann. And I picked Straumann because, and I could have picked cheaper implants. It would have cost me less money to buy, per implant. But I wanted a line where I could have a rep come into my office and just have that support. I need the hand-holding as a beginner implantologist. And so, the reps come in my office. If I need a part, I don't have it. If I have a question, they're just right there during surgery.
But, that's another phenomenon we always talk about on Dental Town. It seems like everybody's saving money and buying implants online or placing, like 5 or 10 a year. Mm-hmm. And everybody that is crushing it and placing hundreds a year buys the expensive because they're paying for the rep. Like Tarun Agarwal buys Noble Biocare, and it's because he's in love with the rep. And the when you have a relationship with a human being and you love and adore and respect each other, it just gets done. And when you get rid of that other human, it's like why is every dentist on Facebook and they're not buying all their supplies online? Almost everyone's buying through Patterson, Shine, Burkhart, Benco, because that human, there's more to getting your gauze and Septicane than, having Amazon delivered to your door. It's that human.
Yeah, I need the humans.
Well, we all do.
And my specialists, too. They'll come in and help me out. In the beginning.
So you're placing or restoring?
I'm doing both.
Yeah.
So I took Arun Garg's course 2 years ago.
In Dominican Republic?
Yeah, I went to the Dominican. I placed implants for 3 days in a row.
Did you just drink on the beach, or did you actually go to the class?
I actually went.
You did go to the class? Well, congratulations.
I didn't see the beach.
Most people just go there and drink on the beach for a week and then say they went to Arun Garg's course.
No, I did his course, 3 days of implants in the Dominican, and then I went back a year later and did 3 days of just extractions. So I felt like I needed, you got to extract the tooth first before you can place an implant. So I thought I really need to work on my extraction technique. So, when you do 3 days in a row of extractions or implants, you just come back with so much more confidence. I learned how to do PRP, which is pretty cool.
Talk about that. PRP platelet rich. Platelet rich. Plasma. So you're drawing blood.
So I'm drawing blood.
Centrifuging it.
In the office, something I never thought I would do. I never even used to do surgery.
So you weren't a blood and guts doctor?
No, I didn't like seeing blood. I liked everything dry and pristine and pretty. And, now I'm into the blood, and it's so fun.
So you're no longer the Mexican-American princess for San Bernardino and the Roseboro Parade. Now you're the blood and guts dentist in Manhattan Beach.
Yeah, now I'm drawing blood and yeah.
So talk about that. So that doesn't scare you? So talk about drawing blood, because there's a lot of people there that are, I don't know what percent of dentists.
Just the thought of it.
Because the thing that is so special about people, I always admire the people who want to become pediatric dentists. I'd rather jump off the Empire State Building head first.
That would be tough.
Oh, I can't think of anything more miserable.
One of my instructors wanted me to go into pediatric dentistry. I remember Dr. McCann. He said, I think you should go into pediatric dentistry. I said, I felt like that was a compliment, but
Oh my God, that would be, I don't know what would be more rock bottom, a pediatric dentist or a cosmetic dentist, because it's like I didn't go to school for 8 years because some 40-year-old lady's coming in and she wants this and this. And I don't get the cosmetic dentistry thing either. I like toothaches. I like pain. In dental school, whenever I had an opening, I'd go with Susan Wires and Brett Ferguson and Charlie Watts and sit in the pain chair. You know, people coming in and the challenge to help them and to get them comfortable and manage the infection or do a root canal. I like all the blood and guts. I don't know what percent of the dentists you think just like blood and guts.
Well, like my associate, just the thought of even drawing blood makes her queasy. So I don't know. Probably most of them don't.
Yeah.
But most of them probably refer out.
And it's neat. We're all different.
I was one of those for years and years.
What do you think made you? What do you think moved? Well, your son's a fireman in Scottsdale. I mean, he's not afraid. Was it him running into a building on fire? You decided you could start drawing blood?
It was like, I went to Scottsdale Center. I took the spear courses, and then I built my practice. It used to be a tanning salon. It was called Bronze Buns. I was going to call it Bronze Buns Dental, but I didn't. So being around, at Scottsdale
Did they do a lot of
Center,
bleaching in there?
I was thinking we could keep one room and have a tanning bed and do the teeth whitening at the same time.
Teeth whitening.
So you have dark skin and white teeth.
There you go.
I didn't do that. So as I was saying, so then when I got my CEREC, being around the CEREC doctors, a lot of them place implants. And, just knowing them and talking to them, like, you should start doing it.
Like what percent of the CEREC doctors you think place implants?
It's not this voodoo, like, I don't think I could ever do that. Anybody can do it. I mean, you can learn it if you put your mind to it.
That'd be an interesting stat. Well, the data I see, there's about 15,000 CEREC users in the United States. But what percent from would you think also place implants?
A lot of them. I would say, because they asked, everybody raise your hands, and how many of you place implants? I see a lot of hands going up. I would say 80%.
Really?
I could be wrong, but it's a high, more than 50.
I need to do a poll on that. Text me, email me, Ryan, to start a poll on that. Because that's a neat thing. So people buying $150,000 CEREC machines are more likely to just be going for it at many levels, including surgery.
Yeah, because if you have the 3D, the Sirona, Calleros, you can merge your CEREC data with your 3D scan. You can, you're going to design your crown first, and then you're going to digitally place your implant. I'm sure you know all this. I'm not telling you anything you don't know.
No, I don't. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, so you have your CEREC. It's made by you. Do you know?
Did you? Well, no. I was thinking you're a triathlete too. Do you know Jay Resnick?
Yes.
Do you go by and see him because he's in your backyard? He's the world-renowned expert on a Calleros.
When you live in LA, just anybody who's even 12 or 15, 20 miles away, it's not like Phoenix where you might get there in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It could be like an hour and a half or 2 hour drive just to go that far in LA.
But have you ever met Jay?
Yes, I have.
So you.
I met him in Vegas at the CEREC 30.
Well, he would he'd love to go on a bike ride with you. He's an Ironman, and we did Ironman together. And I know you like biking and all that. You should get on a bike ride because I don't think anybody in the world knows more about 3D Calleros implants, surgical guides than Jay Resnick, and he's right in your backyard.
Yeah, so being able to do that, we can make I either send him to SciCAD or Cadray, which is Zyron's new company, and they make the guides, and so it just, for me, I feel like it's a safety net. Like, I know exactly how deep my implant's going to go. It's not going to go in the wrong direction. So
now, is Armin near Manhattan too?
Armin is in Glendale, Pasadena area.
So how far is that from you?
Hour and a half.
Now, did you buy a Calleros or do you have Armin's?
No, I bought my own.
So what does Armin have? Does he have actually like a van that drives up to your office, or does he have like physical building centers?
So Armin has dentists like me. So like if you're in my area and you don't have the 3D machine, you can send your patients to me and I'll scan them, or you can send them to Steve Ozer in Manhattan Beach.
So you're part of Armin's network?
Yeah, kind of, just for that. I mean, I've been to his courses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell them about that. That's www.cad.
Is it cadray.com.
Is it cadray.com or cad-ray.com?
It might have a hyphen.
Huh. But explain that.
So you can send models. So like if you want to place an implant on tooth number 3, send an upper and lower model, or actually just an upper model. And they will scan the model for you, as if you would with your CEREC, and you send your scan to them. If you did your scan at another office, that office can send the scan to cadray electronically. So they have your scan, they have your model, and they work with Burbank Lab. They're in
Burbank. Tony?
Well, in Burbank.
Yeah. Well, who's that guy's? Who's the owner of that? Tony
I don't know.
Sedfler? Tony Sedfler?
You know all the owners, I don't.
Yeah, he's a Russian man. Just one of the nicest guys in the world. If you ever go to the lab,
I think I might have met him on the tour of the lab. So they will. They use a different software. I think they use Blue Sky Bio. So they will design your crown for you, and they'll place it, and then you can go on remotely with them. And he'll say, "Do you like it here or here?" Say, "Oh, I like it right there." Okay, does that look good? So you can do it that way if you want.
And then you're gonna place.
Or you can send it to CyCat in Germany. Get it made that way too.
And how long have you been placing them, and how many have you placed?
I've only been placing for a couple years, and I'm starting to place more and more. I've gotten into it very slowly, but it's starting to pick up more and more. I think I've only done like 10 in private practice. I'm doing like 1 or 2 a month.
But it's got you. But would you say it's got you more motivated, more happy?
More
passionate.
How long have we been dentists? 29 years.
Yeah,
it's been a long time.
From 87 to 2016. So next year will be our big 3-0.
I mean, if I were doing things the same way for that many years, I think I'd have to go do something different. I'd be bored. I get bored easily. I love learning new things. Keeps me motivated. It keeps my staff motivated. It's more fun. They like learning new things too. So I try to keep my staff trained. I take them to seminars whenever I can. That excitement, it's kind of contagious. If I get excited about something, the staff picks up on it, and the patients pick up on it. Just makes it a more fun place to work.
Humans need daily deodorant, and they need daily motivation. And if you can keep a human motivated, and sometimes they mix up like I have to get a laser. No, you don't have to get a laser. If getting a laser makes you passionate and have fun and play, then as a business you can't afford not to get a laser, and we work back from what makes you happy and healthy. But sometimes they turn around and they think, I don't want to place implants. I hate that, but I'm going to because I need to do that because I have $350,000 of student loans. And
no, that's not a good reason.
By the way, Ryan and I started a new word today. Instead of a dentist, a dentist. Instead of dentist, DEB, dentist.
Oh, that's
a dentist, and it's the same thing with that. I mean, if that debt is nothing if your life goal, dream, passion was to be a dentist. I mean, what's $300,000-$400,000 to reach your life dream? I mean, I see there's a UFC training fight place up here in Mesa, and these kids come from Brazil and Venezuela and live there for nothing for years, just for a shot at a match. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So if that's your one thing, if that's your passion, and you seem always very upbeat, very passionate, very motivated. I mean, you're just completely full of life. In fact, I never read your bio. I got to read your bio.
Oh, okay.
Dr. Calleros, is that Calleros? That's the gringo way of saying it. But how does it properly said?
Well, the gringo is Calleros, and that's how I say it. But if you spoke to my grandma, who's not alive anymore, she would say Calleros. Probably.
And the only D I ever got was in Spanish, and my Spanish teacher San Martin told my mother that I was linguistically retarded. And the piano teacher dropped me after a year and said I couldn't carry a tune in a lunchbox. So Dr. Calleros, did I get it right? Calleros.
That's good enough.
Grew up in San Bernardino, California, where she was the Mexican-American princess in the Rose Bowl parade. She's the fourth of 6 kids, so I assume that your parents were Catholic.
Yes.
4 boys, 2 girls. Her dad was an electrician and her mom was a homemaker. She went to UC Riverside for undergrad and UCLA Dental School in 87. She was pre-veterinary until her junior year in college, decided to go for dentistry. She married a dentist right out of dental school. Now, that could not have been a good idea. Had 2 kids who are now 24, 26. Divorced, and now she has been a single mom since her kids were 4 and 6. She rented space till 2011 when she built her own office. She discovered the Scottsdale Center for Dentistry by accident in 2008 when the economy dumped, which led to CEREC doctors mentoring, which led to implant education. She recently discovered Dental Town podcasts, which are addicting. Dr. Calleros loves animals, outdoor sports, hiking, horseback riding, tennis, golf, running, biking, skiing, CE. Goal for next year is to study sleep apnea. So what do you think about sleep apnea? Are you trying to treat your own insomnia?
Well, I heard one of your podcasts. And my staff they're probably tired of me saying, I was listening to a podcast and, so every year I have a goal of what I want to study. So 2 years ago, my goal in January 2014 was I'm going to study implants. I want to start placing implants. So learn how to do that. I studied it, and I'm still learning. I don't think you ever stop learning. 2015, I said I'm just going to continue my implant education. And in 2016, I decided I'm going to learn about sleep dentistry because I listened to a lot of podcasts, and it just seems like it's something that's going to be a field that we really need to learn because it really affects your health if you have it in a really bad way. And if I can help somebody by maybe referring them to somebody who can diagnose sleep that they do have it and can change their life for the better, then that's what I would like to do if I can. If I can help somebody.
So have you started sleep apnea yet, or?
So I haven't started yet because at the end of the year I decided instead of that I really should work on my practice. And there's some things like Invisalign and endo where I haven't taken courses in a long time. So I signed up for an Invisalign course and an endo course and just working with my consultant. So sleep apnea might have to wait until next year. There's so much to learn in dentistry.
Do you ever, when you listen to sleep apnea, do you ever at this point wonder if you have it?
Yes, because I snore. I do wonder.
Yeah. I always thought, I remember in dental school thinking a dozen times, like, I'm so lucky I became a dentist because now that I've learned about all this, I'm never going to lose all my teeth and wear a denture like every one of my uncles did. You know what I mean?
Have you ever had a nightmare about that?
And that I have not. I have not.
One. Oh, my God. It's the
about
worst
losing your
nightmare
teeth?
for a dentist, yes.
Well, they actually say that 90% of women have had a nightmare of losing all their teeth before they're age 40. Whereas men, that's like 10% or 15%.
I wonder why.
Yeah. But when I did that sleep apnea, I went to a 2-day course in Scottsdale on it several years ago. And the first thing I thought the whole course was, oh, my God. Next thing I did was I went and checked myself in for the all-night center. They put all the leads on. And because the whole time I was taking that 2-day course, I'm like, oh, my God, I know I have this. I know I have this. I know I have this. And I got up the next morning, and the lady said, we can't, I legally can't give you a diagnosis, blah, blah. So I'm just like, oh, come on. How long have you been doing this? But anyway, she said, seriously, I've never seen anybody sleep that soft. She goes, we were joking that you were in a coma. So the sleep that's a really big buzzword. I mean, everybody's
I grind
really
my
getting into it.
teeth and I snore, so I wonder. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just think in dentistry, I mean, I think it's such a great field because there's so much to learn. I mean, I'm 54 years old, and I just learning so much in my field, and I just feel like there's not enough time to learn everything I want to learn.
I want to ask you another question. I want to go in a different direction with you because I don't have the credentials to say it because I'm a man, but the Arizona Dental Association, and I've seen it with other states, have literally had meetings that were called Women's Issues in Dentistry. Mm-hmm. And they don't have those meetings for bald guys in dentistry, or
that's not fair.
I no. Well, so I'm just I'm a male, you're a woman, and a lot of when I go into dental schools, like say they get mad with me that I don't have, half my dentist guests on Howard Uncensored aren't women. I tell them, that's all I try for. In fact, if you're a woman dentist listening to this and you're over the age of 40, you better email me, howard@dentaltown.com, be on this show, because it is my number one complaint, and I try so hard to do it. But why would the Arizona Dental Association have a convention, Women's Issues in Dentistry? And how come they would never have a convention, Men's Issues in Dentistry? So do you think there's any issues that half the graduating class being women? So talk to that 25-year-old little girl. She's going to graduate this year. Does she have any issues because she's a girl and not a boy?
I remember when I was younger and I met with an accountant, and he said, "You need to cut your hair." I'm like, "What?" "Yeah, your hair's too long." I don't think you need to give up your femininity. You can still wear makeup and do your hair and be a feminine woman just because you're in, a so-called male field. I never bought that I have to dress like a man and act like a man. I think you can still be a woman. I mean, in other countries, the percentage, isn't it 50% or higher, are dentists? Women dentists?
Well, isn't
it just in the States? I think it's more your personality, and I think your leadership skills. I don't think it matters if you're a man or a woman.
This is the sad thing I have to comment on about. You asked, around the world, is it men or women? In the United States, where there's money, it's been mostly men for the last 50 years. Or last 100 years. So the United States, the most money industries are, of course, medicine, 17% of the economy, military, insurance, banking, finance, movies, and music. And it's a male-dominated deal. In America, where there's no money, like in teaching, it's all women. So when you go around the world, when you're in one of the 20 countries where they have median household incomes like $35,000 to $50,000, United States median household income is like almost $50,000. It's all men. I mean, mostly men. And then when you go where there's no money, it's all women. And like Guadalupe, like I'm across the street from Guadalupe Indian Reservation. They're all Catholic. They're all Yaqui Indian, Mexican. They're all Catholic. There's no money. There's not even a priest in Guadalupe. They have a church, and there's a nun there. It's poor when it's all Catholic and there's no priest, just a nun. Wow. And then you come to across the street in Ahwatukee, where there's a lot of money, and the Catholic Church has 3 male priests and no nuns. You know what I mean? So that's why I always think that the best thing about women going into dentistry, it seems like women always go there for the right reasons, and men are usually going there to find a paycheck.
But I do think it is more difficult when you have young kids. I mean, I think, most women probably are going to focus on the kids more than the dad. And so if you're, a career woman, I think it is more difficult. So, that's why I waited until I was older to build my practice. I wanted to wait until my kids were out of high school.
But now that we both are the same age and our kids are raised and gone, going back, do you think having the kids was a really bad idea? And we should have just focused on our practice?
No.
I'm saying that because my son Ryan's filming the podcast. I always tease my 4 boys, if I go back to dental school, the only thing I would have done different is the first 2 canals of endo I would have done would have been on my vas deferens. And I said I should have filed out my vas deferens to a 45, packed it with gutta percha, and that would have saved me a lot of money. Well, they say the average kid cost $350,000 to $400,000. I mean, is that the figure you're seeing?
My kids went to, my daughter went to state school. She went to San Diego State. So I think that saved a lot of money for her parents. And my son, he's a firefighter, so I didn't have to spend a lot on college.
So what do you think about the marketing of it? Because I always thought the number one advantage a woman would have is that dentistry is, the number one thing about dentistry, in my opinion, in America, in just this country that I know very well, is number one, half the market is money. they're always at, how much is it? What does the insurance pay? Payments, finance, care credit, half the issues we deal with are money. Then the next big chunk, which could be a third to 40%, is fear. Are you going to give me a shot? Is it going to hurt? Can you put me to sleep? Can you knock me out? Blah, blah. I just totally think that if I was looking for a dentist, just looking at you, that I would want to go to you and not some big burly guy. I mean, if I had children, my 4 boys, when they were little, I would rather have them go to a woman dentist. I would just think she would relate to them, maternal instincts. So do you market that? I mean, do you put your picture and face all over all your social media and trying to take advantage of, do I look like I'd hurt you? Come on, I'll talk. I'm not intimidating. I would think women, moms, would feel less intimidated to ask you 5 follow-up questions about their kids' treatment than a man. I never saw a single person ask one question during Mass, and I went to Mass every single day for 17 years.
Wow.
With my mom and dad.
That's a lot of Mass.
I know, it was mandatory at our house. You could not miss morning Mass unless you were bleeding in 2 places. So do you take advantage of that as a marketing? I mean, is that an issue in dentistry? Do you think it's a huge advantage for marketing and social media?
I've always been a woman, so I never really, I guess I don't think about it that much. It is funny, though, when patients come in the office, and once in a while they'll say, wow, that's pretty cool. Your whole office is women. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess we don't have any men. I guess I don't think about it that much. I have a woman associate. My last associate was a woman. I don't have any male staff just because not many of them apply. I wouldn't mind having a male, an assistant or a hygienist. I just haven't had that many apply for the jobs. So myself, I'm not prejudiced against men or women doctors. My OBGYN for most of my life was a man. Dr. Basson, I loved him to death. I have women and men doctors. So I don't know. Sometimes I wonder how a man can get such big hands into the mouth. I think it has to be easier to have a smaller hand. You have small hands.
I do have small hands.
So I would go to you.
You go to me?
Yeah.
That is very. I do, but there are national trends we can't deny. Like women in the last 20 years have gone from 20% of the graduating class to half.
That's awesome.
When I got out of school, most OBGYN graduates were males, and now it's all women. I mean, they don't even graduate male OBGYNs, and I see the same trend following pediatric dentistry. Most of all the schools that I check with myself personally, last year only graduated women, and the freshman class was only women. So that whole specialty is going women only.
A lot of the specialists that I work with are women. 2 periodontists in town. It seems like all the orthodontists are women.
Well, if you know any of them our age to do the podcast, I want that, because like I say, I'm booked out from this podcast is booked out 6 months in advance, and the only time we bump someone is if a girl will be on the show. We're just like, okay, Ryan, get rid of 3 white male men. We don't need them.
I'll send you my friends because they're
I
successful full-time working general dentists and specialists. We work really well together.
I want to ask you another question about California. The last question. So this is the day before Valentine's Day. Actually, I'm just going to lie. This is actually Valentine's. I told her I wanted to be her Valentine, so she showed up. The economy is 8 years ago, it rock bottom. Lehman Brothers was, I believe, it was August 15, 2008. 2009 was the bottom. Phoenix had, literally, I think 86 dental offices go bankrupt. In the last 3 or 4 months, oil fell from 100 to 30. China's markets lost trillions. Our market is lost almost 20%. Whenever the economy is not doing good, you always see really intelligent countries like Germany, Italy, the United States voting for crazy political candidates that are way to the right, way to the left. What is the market in what is the economy like in the most crowded? I mean, you're in the most competitive area. I can't think of any place more competitive than Southern California. What are you feeling out there? And having seen economies go up and down for 30 years, does stuff like that bother you, or you not even care?
Well, like in 2008 and 2009, when it was really bad, I told my staff, I said, I don't want my patients even watching the news when they're here. Don't turn on the news channels. It was just so negative. I don't want them seeing that the economy is horrible when I need to do work on them, and I want them to get the work done, and they're not going to want to spend the money if they're, watching the horrible news. So right now I don't feel it. I think it's been 5 years since I built my office, but I've been in practice for a long time, and I really don't notice it. I work in an area where patients have, I think 60% of my patients, they have a PPO dental insurance. So I think as long as, things are covered, and, just trying right now to working with the consultants as far as, their verbiage and communication with patients.
And when Jameson came in, you said the first thing they kind of focused on was scheduling. Is that what you said?
Well, that was one thing. I think, they interviewed privately all the team members, and I think maybe that came up is that they weren't getting their lunches, and, were working into lunch, and they just.
Are you one of those doctors that doesn't mind going through lunch?
No, I do like to take a lunch.
You do like taking lunch?
I do.
See,
I
hate doing that.
I like to have an hour. I like to just decompress for a little bit and eat. I think it's important to, get your nutrition.
Yeah.
Get your sleep, get your rest, get your
Well, see, what I do is I walk in there with a big belly, because a belly is future meals already eaten, stored as fat. So I like to go in there with a big fat belly. I don't know. I look at lunch as what I do in the morning huddles. I just say, okay, there's 4 assistants. Okay, who's going to go with how we eat through lunch, and who would go long at the end of the day? And usually between the 4 of them, one will say, okay, if he goes through lunch, I'll take it. And if he goes after 5, they'll take it. So they decide that up front, so they can juggle around. I don't know. For me, sometimes it's just you see someone, they're in pain, they need an extract, they need a root canal, and whatever. And I'm looking at the schedule. It's like 11:30. It's like 30 minutes. I'm open. Get them numb, get them antibiotics. I'd just rather do it through lunch. I mean, we're all different. We're all different. We all
say, if we have an emergency, we always pick a time. Like, where are we going to put the emergency? And we all decide, okay, 11:30. 3 o'clock, if there's an emergency, they know where to put that patient.
So what did Jameson really do for you on the schedule? I mean, what was the really...
One of the things was like the CEREC appointments, for me to delegate more. Because I would get the patient do all the scanning, do all the designing. I would usually remove the sprue, polish it, glaze it, throw it in the oven. I can do it so fast now because I've been doing it for a while. So now I'm letting the assistants do, all the scanning. They take the sprue off, they polish it. If there's 2 assistants together, they can try it in, with the floss, and then they'll just stain and glaze it. So I can see another patient during that CEREC appointment.
Yeah, and that is so tough to call because, when you're an outside, first of all, it's your life, it's no one else's. We're all going to die anyway. That's why I always tell all my homies, I just want you to be happy and healthy. That's all I want you to be. So if you just totally love that, you just do it. But then if they take off the hat and say, okay, forget the love and passion, what makes the most economic sense? I'm like, well, the most economic sense is you don't pay $150,000 for a machine to demote yourself from a dentist to a lab tech. I mean, you were taking an impression, letting the lab man up the street. You're up the street from Glidewell, or what other lab did you say? Tony's lab.
The
Burbank Dental Lab, which, by the way, I think he's got to be one of the coolest lab owners that ever lived. He is so damn cool, and he's so damn smart. And if you ever go to dinner with him, he'll keep you eating and drinking until literally 1 a.m. with enough wild stories. But
so you think doing CEREC is more of like being a lab tech?
Well, I mean,
I think it's a lot different.
If you bring in the CEREC and you have your assistant do all of that while you're in another room, it can be a cash cow.
Yeah.
But if you're a dentist who used to do 3 crowns in the morning where every patient was an hour, and you prep, impress, temporize, and leave, and while that's going on, in the next room is a crown seat, and 4 to 6 times a day you're just spending an hour or an hour and a half prepping a crown and impressing and temporizing while seating in another room. So this person's running a 4 to 6 crown a day at $1,000 a whopping. He's doing $4,000 to $6,000 a day on Crown and Bridge. Then he buys a CEREC machine, and now he's doing that himself, and he's doing it in one appointment, but each appointment's 2.5 hours. And now he's doing 3 crowns a day. You can still do those
for if you schedule it properly and your assistants are trained. I hate making temporaries.
Yeah.
And my appointments were never an hour anyway. I think I'm fast, but I've never been like Speedy Gonzalez.
Come on, that was racist, Speedy Gonzalez.
Well,
you just offended the Hispanic people.
I offended myself.
You just offended yourself. You're racist against yourself.
So, if I have to make a temporary nowadays, I just I got to make a temporary today. I got to take an impression. I got to send it to the lab. I got to track it. I have to bring the patient back, get them done, take the temporary off, take the cement off their teeth. I hate that now. I call it the old-fashioned way. My assistants will moan and groan, we have to do it the old-fashioned way.
By the way, last question. We're in overtime. Our hour's over. Is that the Apple Watch?
Yes.
So you got the Apple Watch. So and Ryan, you got the Apple Watch. What do you?
See, you can read my messages. Shannon saying something.
What do you think of the new Apple Watch?
I love it.
Why do you love it?
Look, I can read a couple messages, a whole bunch of messages. I have my brother's birthdays tomorrow. I know what time it is. Everything's on there,
Wow.
Strava.
Now, does it have apps on there?
Those are all my apps.
Does it have the Dental Town app?
Yeah, it's right there.
Do you use the Dental Town app? Be honest.
I don't use the app, but I found my associate on Dental Town. I wanted to say that. I had a lot of things I wanted to say. I didn't get to say them.
You use it on your desktop. Dental Town on your desktop, not on your cell phone?
Yeah.
You know what's really cool about the Dental Town app, though? You guess what we now have on the what we do have on the app now? Remind me later. We have the online CE. So now there's 350 online C courses. So if you're like when you're flying on your way to the Scottsdale Center, you're in the airplane, and here's the view of the course.
So I can take a sleep apnea.
You're asking yourself who is Mackley? Well, I live in Edna, Texas. I'm a third generation.
There it is. So it's just amazing because all I'm trying to do with podcasts.
I learned so much from your podcast.
And now the apps on the podcast. So when you're on the podcast, if you go under more, under podcasts, you can listen to the podcast, not instead of just Apple, you can listen to them on Dental Town because you see all these other all the top dental apps. I mean, there's a dozen different dentists putting apps on podcasts on Dental Town. Mm-hmm. And then if you don't want to watch the a podcast and you're on your iPhone or smartphone, Android, then you can switch to online CE, and there's 350 special courses on endodontics and prosthodontics.
So I could do my sleep apnea this year.
Absolutely. You could do all your sleep apnea on your iPhone. Do you use an iPhone or an Android?
I have an iPhone.
So you have an iPhone. Did you see the movie Steve Jobs?
Yes.
That was a wild movie, wasn't it?
Yeah, I didn't like it that much, though.
You didn't like...
I didn't like the movie that much.
Yeah. It kind of painted him out to be kind of a crazy man.
Yeah, with a capital D.
With a crazy man with a capital D? And...
he didn't seem nice.
Yeah, he did. I like that. Crazy man with a capital D. I have not heard that one. But so thanks for being a big fan of the show. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me. I was, surprised that you wanted me to be on the show because, like I said, I'm no expert on anything, but I hope I was of some help to somebody.
Well, I challenge that when you say you've been a dentist for 30 years and you're happy and you're healthy and you're having fun and you're crushing it, and that's what it's all about. And I know most of the most famous dentists on earth, and a lot of it is there's a lot behind the curtain. Remember the Wizard of Oz, when the man behind the curtain, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just because they're on stage and they're an expert in this doesn't mean that they're happy and healthy. It doesn't mean that I want happy, healthy guests, and I think that you crushed it because, like I say, you've been doing this 30 years, and there's just a ton of people, especially in the dental school class, who are half women, and they're complaining to me and Ryan They're basically saying that that all the dentists on my show are men, and all the women are consultants. And so Stephanie Carmada, you're my classmate from dental school. Stephanie was out here for a 3-day weekend, and she talked herself in and out of doing the podcast 3 times during the weekend. But I appreciate your bravery, and if you know any other 50-year-old women that have been doing this for 25 years, yeah, send them to me.
I want to see my friends on the show,
because I don't want those girls in dental school to be looking at all the people on the circuit as being males. Because I could. Do you remember when they came out with the Women's Dentistry Journal? It was Penwell. I think it was Penwell who owns Dental Economics. They come out with a Women's Dental Journal or something like that. It was a dental magazine just for women, and it backfired on them because the women are like, I'm already in this all-male society, and now I'm going to go in there with a special magazine? I'm not a woman dentist. I'm a dentist. And I want to be in the club, and I don't see myself as a woman. I see myself as a dentist when I go to a dental meeting, So, hey, thanks so much for coming by the house. Have fun visiting your son, Michael, the Scottsdale firefighter. And thanks for bringing your dog. What's your dog's name?
Brandy.
Brandy is adorable.
Her name was Sandy when I adopted her. So I had to change it. She's Brandy. You
didn't want people saying that you were named after your dog?
No.
All right. Well, thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
Oh, thank you.
Fun.
And thank you, Ryan, for working on a Saturday.
Thanks, Ryan.